Good morning. It's so great to be back with you. Cisco Walker, an evangelist here in Alien Town, Roswell, New Mexico. I have Danny Meach back with me today. It's always great to have some help, to have some great insight. And we have an interesting topic for you today. Today we're going to be talking about Jim Jones and the American church. And I have a passage of scripture here. It comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 4. And it says, "For if he who comes preaches another Jesus whom we have not preached, or if you receive a different spirit which you have not received, or a different gospel which you have not accepted, you may well put up with it." And so today we're going to be talking about Jim Jones, the Reverend Jim Jones, and the American church. And Danny, I wanted to ask you right out of the gate, right out of the bat, why were you so excited to look into the abyss, Jim Jones and the People's Temple? Maybe excited is not the right word, but why did you feel that this topic was so paramount or important in the times that we live in?
Well, because we're in a time of chaos again.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't realize that in change is chaos, but also there's opportunity for being misled.
Good. Okay. Sure.
And what went on with Jim Jones is through the chaos of the 50s and 60s,
Okay.
he led people the way he did.
Yeah, he did. He sure did. And it's so interesting. So you brought up chaos and people being misled, because you know what, people are like sheep, right? And the Bible refers to people as sheep, and I think it's sometimes people, they have a real problem with that, but we're looking for security. We're looking for people. We're looking for people to follow. We're looking for places of meaning. We're looking to have our lives that mean something, that matter. We're looking for community, right?
Yes.
And I think that people that were in Jones's ministry, People's Temple, he had Unity Community was his first actual organization. People were, and it's important to, when we're talking about cults, that people are looking for God. They're looking for answers, and people have a genuine faith. Sadly, if we don't remember figures like Jones, if we don't remember figures like Koresh or Applewhite, Heaven's Gate, if we don't look at these things, we can be, and we will, I believe, we will be misled, and we will go down the wrong path all over again, because there's the old adage that history does repeat itself, right?
Yes. And the thing is, in chaos, we've got our chaos today is caused by the technologies.
Yes, that's true.
And
That's
so
true.
there's a lot of people that are lost, or not lost, but they're looking for more.
Yeah. So it's just simple content, simple facts. Jim Jones, James Warren Jones, born May 13th, 1931, Crete, Indiana. He died November 18th, 1978. Death place was Jonestown, Guyana. He died from a gunshot wound to the head. Obviously, he would not take the cyanide. He was educated at Butler University in Indianapolis. He founded the People's Temple. His core message, he preached a mix of socialist equality, racial integration, and apostolic socialism, which attracted a large, diverse congregation, many of whom were African Americans. It's interesting to me because as I've looked more at as I've learned more about Jim Jones, like the Bible wasn't really at the center of his message, was it? It was more a socialistic type of message. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, but see, when you're talking about the blacks, people don't realize at that time there was still heavy racial.
Yeah, exactly.
There was still a lot of in 1955 when they started, there was the Korean War that they were dealing with, and then you also had the Cold War, with Russia. So the nuclear attack, people were building bomb shelters in their backyards.
Yeah, well, and he used that. But you see that down through the history of Jim Jones that he would change those ideas, and he was against the Soviets, but a good cult leader will always switch. He knows how to play the cards.
Well, he gives you enough truth.
Yeah. And
to make it seem real.
And so, like, his social teaching stems. Most of the social teachings, they stem out of the Acts of the Apostles. Acts chapter 2 and verse 40. It's a vital church grows. This is where people get this. Now all who believed were together and had all things in common, and sold their possessions and goods, and divided them among all as anyone had need. Right? These are some of the things, because it says apostolic. Apostolic socialism. These are where some of these ideas come from, and they come from Christianity. But there's a sense of community. There's a sense of the early church. But the early church faced so much persecution that, like, we've tried to implement those patterns now in 2026, and they don't work anymore.
Yeah, but what were the main, the male or female, which was the most in his group?
Females and
you know why?
And old women.
Yeah, you know why? Because the rights, they were still fighting for just basic rights.
Yeah, women's rights. Yeah, and one thing you can say about Jim Jones, and we don't know his heart. We know the fruit obviously was terrible, but it seemed on the surface that he was doing good things because he was integrating people. He would go out and pronounce that he was a socialist, but he had the hearts and minds of of African American people, and that was a very radical idea. Some of those ideas that he was trying to implement, and he did implement them, like on the surface, in the beginning, it looked like he was doing good things.
Yes, because he's given them enough information, and in the beginning, while he's in the brainwashing stage, then he moves into the next stage once he's got them.
Yeah, because as I was putting this blueprint together, I was thinking about there's so many different phases. There's so many different stages with Jim Jones. Like there's the early years. There's before the congregations were formed, before he built up the congregations, his popularity, his rise to fame, so to speak, and then obviously what happened in the jungle of Jonestown.
Right.
And a lot of people think that that it was just a hop, skip, and a jump, a snap of the fingers, and everybody was in Jonestown. But that wasn't the case. It was very slowly. This thing rose very, very slowly, and it took years and years to get it there.
But as he starts out one way, and as his power grows, his corruption grows.
Yeah, and it did. Yes.
So he starts out here, but then he starts the things taking people's money, getting people to give their money, and doing what he wants with it.
Yeah.
Abusing women.
Yeah. And he's a sexual deviant too.
All these things, they progressed, but it started in '55 in the Cold War and Korean War.
Yeah.
And then it progressed into the '60s, into the Cold War and Vietnam War.
Yeah, and he was at the prime location, right? He was in California. He was in San Francisco area.
But there was never peace in that time when he got his foothold.
Yeah, no. But people looked to him, and people thought that they had found the answers they were looking for.
He was giving them just enough information. Look,
Yeah.
I believe in God. I believe in socialism and sharing. So and he gives them enough information in that. But then, in the back door, he's doing other things that he's not letting be visible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was. Awful. So, for my point of view, what's interesting is being a minister, looking at church history. This is a relatively new idea. These things that have happened. So, why do so many people? So, for me, it's so interesting to look at Jim Jones because as a minister, I don't really minister that much anymore. But I know a lot of preachers, and I know a lot of teachers, and I know a lot of people, men and women that hold credentials, and like it seems to me like they don't want to think about these things. Like they don't, they're very uncomfortable when you're talking about cult leaders, and they're very uncomfortable because I think ministers have this perspective where it's like, well, I could never be like that. I could never make those decisions. I could never do those kind of things. But I think sadly that many of us, if we're not careful, we can fall into that as well. And here's my question: is there potential for every licensed minister, every credentialed minister, every independent minister to become like Jones on a micro level?
Well, they're there right now.
Okay, explain it.
Well, the thing is, you've got people out there saying you've got to give me your money.
Okay.
How much money did Jesus take?
We don't know. Yeah.
Okay, well, no, but he worked. He was a carpenter.
Yes.
And the people the apostles, fishermen, and different things. They didn't expect money. They accepted donations and they accepted people's homes, but from my studies, they never asked for money.
No, they didn't, and strangely, and it's not a bad thing, but a lot of the women provided for Jesus' needs, and I don't mean in lewd ways, but I mean financially, and so those patterns are there, right? Those patterns are there from Scripture, but men take those things, but ministers, they struggle with these ideas because everybody says this thing can't ever happen to me. I'm a pastor. I have a congregation. I lead people. You know what? I think that if you have that responsibility and you have that privilege, you better be careful. And I think it's important for most people. If you have credentials and if you're a minister in the church, you need to be looking at people like Jones and what happened at Waco. You need to look at it quite a bit.
You always need to know where your heart is.
But sometimes we don't know where our heart is.
Why?
Because the Bible says that the heart is deceptive and desperately wicked, and who can know it? So I agree. You have to have confession.
But the thing is, if you're staying aware of where you're at, in your heart, then you're less likely to go down a wrong road. But if you're not paying attention to where your heart is,
well, then you can wind up down the wrong. And
why? It's easy to be led astray because you're not holding your ground.
And so many ministers, they ruin their lives, they ruin their families' lives, they ruin their marriages because of the same things that Jones was tempted with on a micro level. They want to control people. They struggle with finding. They fall into sexual sins, and sadly enough, they fall into the same trap. Maybe if we examined our heart, we have to do that. But sometimes, Danny, we have to look into the abyss. We have to look at things that we don't want to look at. We have to look at things that make us uncomfortable, because just like Nietzsche said, when you peer into the abyss, be careful, because the abyss peers back into you. And my question is why are there so many ministers when it comes to Jones, when it comes to the Branch Davidians, when it comes to cults, like they don't want anything to do with it? Is it because they might see for a moment a reflection of themselves in these diabolical men?
But the thing is first off, why did they become ministers?
Yes. Well, maybe for the same reasons Jones did.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is first off is why did the person choose to be a minister? Did he choose to better himself, or to assist in bettering his community? Because you don't better one little pieces. Each person you assist in moving in their hearts towards Jesus.
Yes.
Then you're bettering your community.
Right.
But each person you move away, you worsen your community.
Yes. And you're susceptible to those same temptations.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you mentioned something earlier, and that is that the most are the women. Do you know why?
Well, no, tell me.
The nature of women is to nurture.
The ladies, yes.
And to nurture and to care for.
Yeah. And Jones, it's proven that Jones, he built the early years and into the later years, he built it off of little old women.
Right. Well, he took their nature.
Okay.
And little old women. Well, let's say you've got a widow or a spinster, and she's never had she doesn't have a man in their lives anymore, and they're not looking for sex. They're just looking for
because people are lonely.
Association. They're lonely. So how would I grow something? Well, you go after the ones that are vulnerable.
Yes.
And the lonely are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And women are more vulnerable than men.
Yeah, and especially little old women. Because, like, okay, I'll be honest with you. Like I've been a preacher of the gospel for several years. And you know what? I've had little old ladies come up. Oh, I love your sermon, Brother Walker. Oh, we just love your ministry, Brother Walker. And like, if I'm being honest with myself, and like this is, this bothers my contemporaries. But if I'm being honest with myself, it would be really easy to fleece a little old lady. And
yes.
like, of course, you would never do that. But as a minister, like those things cross your mind, and that's why you need the Holy Spirit. That's why you have to have a heart condition.
That's why you have
right.
to know where your heart.
Yeah, because those things do cross your mind, and as a minister, you wonder, well, like, how am I going to do this? I've got to have a car, we've got to have a building, we've got to have the rent, we've got to have this, But then there's another part of an individual too that likes attention, that likes control, that likes to manipulate situations for their own personal gain. And I think that the problem is that there's a lot of people that pastor churches, but like they feel that they're above that thing, and they feel like they can't ever, that these things, I'm not saying that they're going to lead people to a third world country, have them drink poison, commit revolutional suicide, commit mass murder, all those things. But there's a flicker of that, I think, in each minister, the potential to go that direction. I think they're wrestling, and they're constantly wrestling with it.
Well, there's always that possibility.
Yeah.
But again, why did you start this? Why did you step in? When you lose your direction, and it's easy to do if you don't always look at where every day you get up and you appreciate where you're at and where you're going.
Yes.
If you're not doing that on a moment by moment basis, because temptation's everywhere.
Yeah. And is it possible to start out right and deviate?
Well, that's what I say. The Jim Jones started here, but then he progressed.
Yeah.
So he may have started with the right idea. I don't know, because I didn't know I don't know that much about his beginning, but I do know that he started out trying to lead people towards Jesus or a religion and peace.
Yes, peace. Yes, I would say peace,
and that's because of the chaos.
And a utopia, right, where
right.
everybody where everybody shares everything, where everybody has everything in common, and to some degree that really is a utopia, because even in the book of Acts, like, it didn't work for very long. You see it begin to deconstruct around Acts 7. Like the early church, it fell apart because there was something wonderful, there was something grand that happened, and they all pulled together. But very quickly, with the introduction of Ananias and Sapphira, remember, they lie to the Holy Spirit, and they hold back part of the money that they were supposed to give to the apostles, but they lied about it, and God judged them, and they were struck down for that. So very quickly we see that the possibility for this deception, and the possibility for control, manipulation, and self-accolades, right? We see very quickly that those have a tendency to creep in on church people.
Well, the thing is ego.
Okay, explain.
Well,
I agree.
If I feed my ego, then I'm leading myself astray.
Okay.
If I recognize the ego and say, no, that's not where I choose to go, and hold to my path, now I'm staying on the path that I choose.
Okay.
Because ego is the brain.
Yeah.
See, the brain saying, I want recognition, I want to be stroked, I want to be taken, I want people to compliment me and
approval,
take care of me. The heart says, I'm happy where I'm at.
Yes.
I don't need your validation. I'm holding in my heart my space.
And there's also the dynamic of the flesh lusteth against the spirit. So there's always a temptation within us, no matter how good, no matter how pristine, no matter how close we're walking with Jesus. But there's always there's always that temptation of the flesh to come in, Because the flesh likes validation. The flesh likes luxury. The flesh likes to not work. And you're a hardworking guy, and you know what it's like to work hard. You probably worked hard all of your life, and I hear people all the time, but I tell people, I said, you know what? I said, you can get used to being lazy real quick. You know what I mean?
It's all training.
Yeah. Why? Because the flesh lusteth against the spirit. And so it's easy to take the path of least resistance. And I feel Jones took the path of least resistance as he went on further and further and further. He took the path of least resistance. But he didn't do that in the beginning. He didn't do that in the inception, because he had a drive and he had a force before the amphetamine, before the drugs. And he was able, somewhere in there, he was able, I think he wanted to do something good, but he just failed tragically and miserably.
Look what the possibility, I don't know for sure, but look what the possibilities of being corrupted by. In the beginning, he didn't have money.
No.
In the beginning, he didn't have women surrounding him.
No, he didn't. Yeah.
So, so as there became more money and more women.
Yeah.
And then the possibility of drugs coming in.
Well, see, this is the interesting theory, because it's a theory, but many people say that the drugs came in because Jones, like all cult leaders, he elevated himself to the status of God.
Yes.
He was God, and so God has to be on point all the time. And he was doing these shows, he was doing these revival shows, he'd do 2 or 3 of these revival shows a day, and then he would have his meetings, his secret meetings with his congregation. And so they say the reason that he did the amphetamines was so that he could keep going, he wouldn't have burnout, but he had to be on point all of the time. And many ministers, they go through burnout.
Right, but the thing is that's the problem.
Okay, elaborate that.
Why did he not work within the means given him?
Because he wanted more and more.
You see the point?
Yeah.
Wanting more and more is greed.
Yeah, it's one of the 7 deadly sins, the cardinal sins. Yeah.
So it's always looking at the bigger picture. What led him astray was his own stepping out of his heart and letting the mind running. The mind runs, the heart runs with God, with Jesus. The mind,
if it's converted, right, because it's hard to tell if he was ever really converted. We don't know. Like we know that as a boy that there was a Nazarene lady that took him under her wing to begin to take him to church, and he loved church. And they said that he would go to church with her in Indiana, but then he also would go to several different services, and he found that he liked the African American services. And this is interesting, he really enjoyed the Pentecostal flavor, the showmanship. And I know that Pentecostals think that they don't do showmanship, but he liked the spitting and the sweating and the laying on of the hands and the pushing people down, and he liked the theatrical entertainment that happens sometimes in the midst of charismatic services, and he gravitated to that. But he also saw a freedom in that he didn't see in liturgical worship.
Right.
So that's very interesting, right?
But see, the thing is all of that is ego.
Yes, and it's not necessarily the spirit or pure motives. So, Danny, why do so many people want to simply forget that these death cults, Branch Davidians, Heaven's Gate, what we're talking about today, Jim Jones and the People's Temple? Why are there so many people like, there's a wonderful guy that I work with, his name is Walter, and he's, me and him talk about kind of morbid things from time to time, but he's interesting. And his wife didn't know who Jim Jones was, and she's probably early 30s. So why do so many people they don't want to talk about it? They want to just kind of forget that this part of history happened.
Well, is it do they want to forget, or is this not in their wheelhouse?
I don't know.
The thing
why
is,
aren't we talking about it more? I mean,
because they don't teach this.
Yeah, but that's kind of why we're doing this, because like you feel it's important. I'm not saying you were excited to talk about it, but there's a lot of people I say, hey, you want to do a video? I want to talk about Jim Jones. And they're like, no, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about those awful things. Those were horrible things. Why do you want to think about things like that? Well, let's just have a marshmallow world. Let's just have a beauty and utopia all the time. I don't want to think about those dark, they're awful things. Why in the world would anybody want to think about that?
But the thing is because they're unpleasant thoughts. But if we don't revisit this stuff and keep people aware of what could happen,
Yes.
then it has a very strong chance of repeating itself.
Yes. Do you think America's ripe for a cult leader?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. How come?
Like I said before, how many, if you look at the schools, kids being raised on computers.
Okay.
How many of you go to a restaurant and rather than the family sitting there visiting, you've got the mom and dad on their phones and the kids on their phones or iPads?
With him. Yeah.
So they don't even look up and visit with each other. So do we have a family unit there? No.
Yeah.
So when these kids hit the teenage or early 20s, they're ripe to find a family. That's why gangs work, because the gang becomes the family.
Yeah, because they're looking for that community. Yeah.
They're looking for.
So with the rise of technology, how does that shape America to embrace a cult leader? Because you're onto something.
Because the brain is rewired by electronics.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
They've got proven facts that the brain is being rewired, and the brains of the kids today are smaller than the brains of the kids 20 years ago.
Yeah, and they say IQ's down, right? The IQ.
Well, yeah, because
IQ
the electronics give you everything.
Yeah.
Okay, when you pick up this book and you read it,
yeah, it's different.
You're creating the story and the picture in your mind, where this is giving you all the story and the picture and the outcome.
Yeah, it's but see, yeah, I agree, because now, like I've even used it, like since AI, like I can look up Sermon on the Mount. What is the meaning of the Sermon on the Mount, and it'll give me bullet points. Perfect.
Right,
bullet points. But like in the old days, you had to think about it. You had to, like you said, you had to meditate on it.
What the two differences are? This, you're creating your own conclusion. This is giving you that conclusion.
Yeah, and it cheapens it, right? And
it takes away your thought.
Yeah, it cheapens it, because now we don't have to think as much anymore.
Well, the body, if you watch, the body, when you don't use something, it stops feeding it.
Yeah, that's the old saying, use it or lose it.
Right. Well,
okay.
What's happening is that they're not using the brain, so the body's not feeding it.
Yeah. Okay. So isolation. That's one of the key factors of a cult leader is isolation, and we're isolated more than we ever have been because of technology.
You can be four sitting at the table, but you're each isolated.
Yeah, you're still isolated. Yes. Yeah. So, it's important that we look at these things. So I've got a question here. It's a difficult question here. I don't know if there's an answer for this question, but I thought it would be good for the video today. So a lot of people will have this question, right? They say, if God is so good, right? I'm playing devil's advocate, right? If God is so good, and if God is so just, then how in the world could a holy, good, just God allow 900 people to die in the jungles of Guyana with the introduction of revolutionary suicide?
Well, let me ask you this: how could he not?
Well,
no. The thing is, if I'm a
but that's those are like existential questions, right? Those are like. Dostoevsky addresses that. Nietzsche addresses that. Like, if your God is so good, then how could he allow 900 people to die?
But the thing is if he doesn't allow that, then he takes away my free choice, doesn't
he?
Yeah,
I mean, that's exactly the right answer. It's free will. Free will.
They made a choice to go there. They made a choice to participate in it.
Yes.
They made a choice. And so it's kind of like if I pray for patience.
Yes.
Is God going to give me patience? Or the opportunity to learn patience.
He's going to give you a bunch of people that are going to drive you insane.
So I learn patience.
Yes.
Well, that's because he's still leaving me with my free will to learn.
Yeah.
He's not giving it to me. He's giving me the opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
Jesus, all through his teachings, taught how to learn.
Yeah, he said, and he said it here. He said, learn from me, for I am. Here, I'm doing the preacher bit here. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart.
Right. So what he's saying is you have the opportunity to learn. It's like the preachers. Every day you say that they could be corrupt. Well, they get to learn not to be.
Yeah.
And they get to learn how to face the temptation that is there. And that's what we're here for. We're here to learn.
Yes.
We're here to learn how to be closer to God. And see, Jesus spent his whole life teaching us how to be closer to God. And we have a choice of taking this script and learning and living by it, or we have a choice of worshiping the script.
Yeah, or we have a choice of taking the script and bending it and forming it. And you can take this book. You can take this book and you can create something hellish and ungodly, and you can use this book to hurt people.
Yes, but the thing is, that's all.
It's all in the individual. It's all in free will. Yeah, because we have to have free will. Because if we don't have free will, then God's love isn't really real.
If I read this book with my mind, I get one message.
Intellectually, yeah.
If I read it with my heart, I get a different message.
And you should, right? So you have mind, heart.
Now, if I read the book today, I get one message. If I read it a year from now, I get a different message because I have progressed somewhere.
Yeah, that's the goal.
The message.
Yeah.
So the book can be read repeatedly, and the thing is when I'm listening to someone preach, let's say Jim Jones.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't want me to read the book.
Not really, no.
He doesn't want me to understand the book. He doesn't want me to understand it from my perspective. Yeah. I'm supposed to follow his perspective. Just like this gives me one perspective.
Yeah,
that's
true.
why so many religions don't want you to look at a different religion.
Yes, yeah.
Because they only want their perspective.
Yeah.
They want this perspective. They don't want this perspective through the heart.
Yeah, because, and I think a lot of that is fear, because they're like, oh, we don't want you to see that, maybe the Buddhists have a point. Maybe, right?
Well, your money might go over
there. Maybe the Islamists, maybe they have a point, and I know that, that's a stretch. I'm not promoting any religion. But church people are like really bad about that. They're like, this is the golden rule, and this is all that you will ever need to solve every problem in your life, and that is simply not true.
Right, but it's not one religion. One religion is one's man side of it, and then a group got together and believed that, and it's expanded into a religion.
Yeah.
Well, that's only one. What each one of us, every one of us, have our personal relationship with God and Jesus.
Right. Yes.
And so we come together with others that have a similar relationship, but none of us have the same relationship.
True. Yeah. That's very true. And you mentioned something very interesting about the jungles of Gowanus. Like, people were not forced with a gun to their head to go there.
Right. They chose to follow Jim Jones, which is this version.
Yes.
And they didn't think for themselves, and through fear, he brainwashed them in to going.
Yes. And there's the debate, was what happened, and by all means, don't misunderstand any of us here today, where it's awful that 900 people died. But the debate was it mass suicide, or was it revolutionary suicide, or was it mass murder? Because there's a lot of evidence that point to the fact that they believe that roughly 600 people, if you didn't have a choice whether you were going to drink the poison or not.
Right, but the thing is that stems from his progression.
Yeah, it didn't start that way.
Why did he end up down there in the first place?
Well, because he had burned all the bridges, and he had, and the jig was up, so to speak. That's a terrible way to say it.
America.
Yeah, so he had to flee and go to Gowanus because they say that for a few years, like, he wasn't there all the time. Mm-hmm. Right? And they said that those were the best years of Jonestown because he wasn't there. And they were doing the communal. They had the communal food. Right. They had some kind of they were creating the utopia. It was very hard to do in Gowanus because Gowanus is a terrible place. They were breaking chainsaws, and it took months to even carve out the road to where it was. It wasn't easy. Right. But he wasn't there. But they said once he got there, it all went south.
Right, but what is the catalyst?
Well, they wanted to create utopia.
No, the catalyst of the end is what I'm asking. What was the catalyst?
Jones.
The senator went down there.
Oh yeah, the congressman.
The congressman.
Ryan.
He went down there, and the minute he showed up, Jim Jones knew the jig was up again.
Yeah, and people and the note, and people were like, when you leave, we want to leave with you. We don't want to stay here anymore.
Right. Well, he was getting on the. They went and shot him on the plane.
Yeah,
because he was loading people on his plane to go with it.
And the reason that he went down there is because he had heard, but they weren't really prepared, right? Like they had heard that there may be some problems in Jonestown, and they kind of wanted to look at it. I think that congressman, like he was he was trying to help people, but they just weren't simply prepared, because once the dam broke, then everybody was like, oh, I want to go too. I want to get out of here. And like they didn't really have the room. They weren't really prepared for like a mass exodus.
Had no,
he wasn't going to
let anyone go.
Yeah.
That was the ego, and he knew if they made it out of there, he would be ruined.
That's true. Yes.
And so he decided, okay, I am not going to let anybody out of here so they can tell on me.
Yeah. And control.
Mm-hmm. That's the control.
Yeah.
I'm controlling this narrative. I'm in control. I will make sure no one leaves.
Yeah.
No one can abandon me. So that's his fear.
Yeah, that is terrible. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. So here's an interesting question. A lot of people will say, "Why didn't you just walk away when you saw the storm coming? Why do so many stay in cults when they have multiple opportunities to exit?"
But when the question, I'll answer that with a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Why do abused women go back to their husbands?
Because they are afraid of change.
Because they don't.
It's easier to stay in bondage than to embrace chaos or the unknown.
It's the unknown. They have more fear of the unknown than the known.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens here.
And that happened in the Exodus story. A lot of people, they misinterpret the Exodus story. They misinterpret coming out of, you know the story with Moses and the Red Sea. Once they crossed the Red Sea, what were the children of Israel always complaining about? It was better in Egypt, because that's something we knew. That's something we understood. We were slaves, but we had food. We were slaves, and we didn't have to think. We were slaves, and Pharaoh told us what to do. Now here we are, and now we're in a worse state, because freedom to them was seemed worse than bondage itself.
The thing is
so is that the same principle here?
Yeah, because you make statements. In Jamestown, they didn't have to think.
Yeah.
They didn't have to
deal with the
everyday outside world, the everyday stuff. They only had to deal with what was in that little community.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And so it's just like the abused wife going back to the husband. I'm comfortable with this because this is all I know.
True. And you know what? And I think there's a lot of church people that are that way too.
Yes.
They're in churches. They're unhappy with their church. They're unhappy with that church. They're unhappy with the denomination. They're unhappy with the pastors. They're unhappy with things that people are doing. And they may have even heard from God. You know, whatever that might mean to people. It means different things to different individuals. And they know that it's time to go. That it's time to leave. But they won't go because they're trapped. And, I can say that from my own life, from my own experience. I'm not saying that you abandon your faith, that you abandon Jesus. I'm not saying those things. But you can tell when something is dying, when something is dead. But, it's so much easier to stay in dysfunction than it is to dream and to step out into unknown waters. Is that what you're saying?
No, but the thing is, you made a statement there that said you don't know if something's dying or dead. Well, you may have outgrown it with your growth. See, each one of us have a path, and at this time, this is perfect for me.
Yeah.
But then I grow, so now I get to move over to this. What the thing is people get scared to move to the next phase of their life because it's the unknown.
Yeah.
But it's not that this is dying or dead. It's just it no longer serves because you've grown past that.
Yeah, that's true. And we're afraid of change. Sometimes we're even afraid of success.
Yes,
right.
Because it's unknown.
You remember Cannery Row, right? Cannery Row, Steinbeck, and there's a character named Henry in Cannery Row, and Henry's always working on a boat, and he'll get the boat. He's got it on cinder blocks, and he'll get the boat. He'll sand it. He'll paint it. He'll get the boat almost and it's ready to go into the water, and then for some reason he creates a situation where the boat can't go into the water because he's afraid of success.
How many people do that in their everyday life? And religion, in finances, in relationships. That happens every day.
And they never reach their full potential.
Because so many of us are trained to live in fear.
Yeah, and that is the backbone of cults and cult leaders.
Yes.
Is fear. Yeah. So people say, why didn't you just get out? Well, a lot of times when you're all in with a church or a religion, when you're all in a cultish environment, like you don't have anywhere to go. I think, okay, we have to put ourselves in the place of being in Jonestown. And let's say you see the storm coming, and let's say that you're in a cultish type of church or an environment, and like you literally have nowhere to go because you've given all of your finances, you've given them all your energy, and then here's something else too. You have to admit that everything that you believed in, everything that you invested in, everything that you sacrificed yourself for, and even your family, it was a lie, it was a sham, it wasn't real. And it's hard for us to admit that and to walk away from it because it's easier to stay in darkness than to move into light. Would you say that's accurate?
Well, yeah, because the competition that goes on with all of us is the competition between the heart and the mind.
Okay, explain, elaborate, yeah.
Well,
I agree with that.
The mind and the ego, it's always wanting to be stroked.
Yes.
So let's say you have a bad habit. Let's say you want to give up smoking.
Yeah.
Well, the heart says, I can give it up. The mind says, no, I need it.
Yeah, and the body says it to a certain degree too.
Yeah,
but the mind and the body are intricately connected, yeah.
But the mind was designed to keep you alive. The heart was designed for your spiritual housing.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So the mind is designed for this environment.
Yeah.
Well, even if I'm uncomfortable in the environment, but I am used to the environment, it's more comfortable than stepping out that door into the heat because it's cool in here.
Yeah, and you don't really want to go out into the heat. Yeah.
Even though the heat might let me grow food. The heat might let me meet other people. The heat might expand my horizon. Well, there's fear of expansion.
Yeah, yeah. And so therefore they stay in the cult. Therefore they stay at Jonestown. And, it's pretty hard to leave Jonestown when it was in Gowanus, right?
Well, I was going to say, they wanted to get on the plane because there was no other way out.
Yeah.
They were trapped. Once they got there, they didn't have a choice anymore.
Yeah, true, yeah. Because all your eggs are in one basket.
And he had his head guys that would control it.
And you know what the interesting fact about his goon squad or his bodyguards? Mm-hmm. A lot of those people were street people.
Yes.
The man who made the cyanide, it cost $8. He was a junkie. He was a drug addict, and he was a junkie. And he had some kind of religious experience, whether it was Jones, but he felt that it was Jones, and so he felt that Jones had saved his life, and therefore he would. But that man, sadly, tragically, that's how they figured out how to make the cyanide. It cost $8 to kill 900 people, and that's sad. But Jones knew how to take those street people. They were the bodyguards. They were the ones that go on and they were saying, you either drink the cyanide or we're gonna take a syringe. They found all the broken syringes where they were just killing people, and those were the people that Jones used. He didn't use the little old ladies. They weren't they weren't running around with rifles and syringes full of.
But they were the controlling people.
Yeah,
but every time you have something
they had undying loyalty to Jones.
Right, but you always have that circle around.
Okay.
In every one of these instances you mentioned, they always have their goon squad.
Yeah. Well, you have to have it. Yeah.
Because that's how. If anyone starts to get out of line, you send the squad to put them back in.
Yeah. Now, was it revolutionary suicide, or was it mass murder, or was it a little of column A and a little of column B? What do you think?
Well, I personally think it's all mass murder because he brainwashed the people who took the stuff into it. So that's a form of murder in itself.
Yeah. And sadly, we will just simply never really know.
No, but it's still all a mass murder. You can call it mass suicide, mass murder, mass whatever. It's all the same thing because it all stems from one man brainwashing a group of people into this situation because they were susceptible through the chaos that was in society. The people that were looking for savior found dead.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So as we close, Danny, why is it so important for us to look at these unpleasant situations?
Well, as a society, it's important for us to always look. It's like World War II and all these others. We don't have to worship it and have it up every day, but having a knowledge of it helps to cue us when something similar is starting to happen.
Yeah, and a lot of people will say, well, what do I learn from? I have this in my notes as we close here today. They say, well, what do I learn from Jonestown? I know I need to look at it historically. I think that we have to look at Jonestown because we have to look at this is what people can do, and I am a person. I could be. We have to look at it from that unique perspective.
Yeah, and would you be a sheep at Jonestown or a leader?
Yeah. That's very interesting. Yeah.
And
would you be a sheep or would you be one of the goons? Because it's easy for us to say, oh, well, I would have just walked out of there. I would have saw it coming a long time ago. Those are ignorant people. Those are stupid people. How could they just not see it? That's interesting. But would you be the guard? Would you be the one with the machine gun? Would you be the one standing there that was forcing people to take this revolutionary suicide?
But look at people, how easy they can flip because everybody has it. What flips the switch from sheep to goon?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
And all it takes is one incident, and that's how quickly someone can be that. What flips the switch from a minister assisting people to a minister taking advantage of people?
Yeah. And it happens.
Just one incident.
Yeah.
And
it's a slippery slope once it begins.
Right. So once you step on that slope. But if you step on the slope, you always have the opportunity to step off.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you got the strength in your own heart to step out of it?
And it's because of the grace of God that we can step out of it. Yes. So I thank you for coming on here. It's very important for us to look at these things. It's very important, especially as a minister of the gospel. And I just thank you for talking about such a difficult subject. And we have to remember these things because these are the things that people can do, and we are people, and we,
well, we have the choice every moment in our lives. We have a choice to make because life isn't day by day; it's moment by moment, and every moment creates who we are.
Yes. We've been talking about Jim Jones in the American church. If you're a credentialed minister, if you're a preacher, whoever you are, but especially for the purpose of this video, if you're a minister, you have to be careful and you have to look into the abyss because you will see flickers of these things in your mind if you allow yourself and if you can face it. And it's important that we remember these tragic events and that we move forward. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us. God bless you.